And go. All right. All right. You know what it is? You know who it is. We're back. Episode 12 of the Fight Cast. This week, we got some cool stuff to talk about. Another cool little change in topic since there was a little bit lighter on the big fights. So we got something cool we'll talk about in a minute. We did have Ryan Garcia fight this weekend, which was a great fight, which we'll go over and a little bit more in depth because I thought it was a really good fight. And I thought, there's a lot of build up to this fight because Ryan Garcia is one of those guys who's coming up. He's a little bit younger. He's a social media star and people are, they're trying to get him to be the face of boxing from what I'm looking at and what I'm seeing. And there was a lot of hype behind it. And this was really his first test. So we'll dive into that as well. Some UFC stuff. But so start here. Ryan Garcia fought Luke Campbell, and it was in Texas. And this fight going overall, we both picked Garcia. I think we both picked decision. But he won by knockout or technical knockout. And with this liver shot, which was actually crazy because it didn't even look like it didn't look like the cleanest punch when he threw it. It looked like he was like falling forward a little bit and it looked like he was a little bit off balance. And I thought, so I was on the plane watching this. I was coming back to Nashville and I was trying to keep quiet. And then the first time he got knocked down, which this fight overall for him was, I think he needed this fight. And we talked about this a little bit through text, but he needed this fight. He needed something like this to happen because it woke him up. I hope so, because he had a lot of flaws on defense. And, he could have got caught a couple more times if Luke Campbell was a little bit more sharp, I guess, that night. And he was
a little more aggressive.
Yeah.
That's what it come down to. He wasn't aggressive enough. Yeah.
Yeah. And Ryan Garcia showed some flashes of like greatness when he came back and he got dropped. Cause I was like, as soon as he got dropped, I was like, oh my God, like that's the worst possible case scenario for him because like we said, and this was one of the biggest things that I think we talked about, mainly you, was like his chin. It was like, we needed to see. It was like, does he have
never been hit before? Yeah.
Yeah. And like,
now we know that his chin is not great because Luke Campbell, he's got okay power, but we're going to talk about, the possibility of a tank fight, but oh boy, that's
and
not looking good, bro.
And he's going to have to clean up heavy on defense. His footwork is going to need a little bit. I mean, he was also fighting a southpaw, so it looked like he was getting a little bit. He said he favors southpaws, like he prefers fighting them, but it looked like he was a little bit thrown off by the style and like maybe the timing it just was, or like and I think this is one of the things that you talked about specifically was he was thrown off by like, I think Luke Campbell had like like he controlled the ring more than anybody ever had. And, Garcia, I think he won the first round. Me personally, I don't think he lost any round besides the one that he got dropped in. But it was pretty close to a lot of people that were judging the fight or the people that they were talking to. But, I think he earned that fight. I think that he deserves whatever comes next, meaning like, I don't think he deserves tank, but like he deserves his name now and he deserves to get whatever he wants next and whatever he can decide next. But my take, I thought he did really well. I thought he earned it. And I thought he definitely put himself in that upper tier of fighter. Whether he's going to step up even more is going to be decided, but we'll talk about that. So we'll let you go and dive into that.
All right. So first, I'm just going to talk about the knockout punch, the body shot. That was set up. It happened for two reasons. Three reasons. One of them being Reynoso getting on Garcia's ass about going to the body more.
And I was going to say, I wanted not to cut you off, but I think that was one of the things I was watching for too. After that was how he reacted to his coach. Cause it looked like kind of in the beginning, he was just like this, just like a normal, just like not really like listening, or he was listening, but like, it was just kind of like, yep. And then this third round, he was like, yep.
Yeah. He's like, no, I got it. Yeah. The second reason is we talked about this with the Canelo and Callum Smith fight is that Europeans, this is why they will always do horribly against American fighters because of that high guard bullshit. So Luke having the high guard is one of the reasons he got caught. And that goes into the third reason is because Garcia set that up with constantly throwing that lead hook, that check hook to the head. So after a while, Luke's reaction, because he's European and these guys' only fucking defense for a headshot is to fucking put your hands way the fuck up here.
Yeah.
Right. So after a while, you could see like Garcia, even when he didn't even come through with it, he just feinted it. Campbell's hands will come way up here like this. So what happens is that Garcia is on the outside, right? And it really, this is more of like the Teofimo, the Roy Jones, like gazelle hook, right?
Yeah.
He came down, showed his shoulder. Campbell's hands came way up and he leaped in and caught the body shot. That's why when you say, hey, it looked like it wasn't even that hard, didn't have to be.
Yeah.
Campbell was not bracing for a body shot. He was bracing for a headshot. And if you fucking use your eyes and you slip, then you can, defend against that headshot without removing your guard from your body. That's why he got caught. But it was a beautiful little sort of feint by Garcia because he knew he was landing that hook the whole fight. Every time that he even like thought about throwing that hook, Campbell's hands came way up. So it was wide open. So it was a beautiful shot. Yeah, I think the same thing that he, Garcia earned it. He, he got that was the moment that I was talking about last week.
Yeah.
That there would come a moment where he realized, like, oh, I'm not going to walk through this dude. I didn't think it was going to come like that. I didn't think he was going to get knocked out.
I thought he would get touched up. And I thought he would get hit a couple times, but I didn't think he'd get, because that was just, it was like a scary drop too. Because when he landed, he was.
First of all, listen. Yeah, it was a flash knockdown. You could see because when he stood back up, his knees weren't wobbly or anything, but you could see he was kind of like, still floating a little bit, but his legs were there, so it wasn't a horrible night. Because again, Luke Campbell doesn't have that type of power. But bro, you could see that fucking shot coming. Even people that don't know anything about boxing, you could see that Campbell was setting that shot up with a jab to the stomach. Yeah. He jab and then he'd go to throw it, but if Garcia threw his hook, he would stop it, right? So he'd bang, turn his shoulder, wouldn't go through with the shot if Garcia was throwing his hook. So you could see it coming. And then the actual hook itself, he threw it from the hip.
Yeah.
Like you could see the shot coming a mile away. The fact that he got caught with it is ridiculous. And Reynoso said it perfectly. He was like, look, man, you went to swat that body shot away with your right hand and you took your guard away. I mean, you don't need to do that. That was fucking stupid. So that was that moment that I was talking about. That was the moment where he realized, like, oh, I'm not just going to be able to go straight forward and take some little pity pat hits because this guy knows what he's doing. Even though he doesn't have the power, he knows how to land shots. Yeah. I agree with you. I think that was probably the only round that Luke Campbell won anyway. And that's more just because Garcia, even after the knockdown, was just super aggressive.
Yeah.
He almost coming forward.
He scared me. Yeah. He came out that third round.
Right.
Third or fourth round, he came out hot. Like he acted like he had him wobbled and he didn't yet.
Yeah. But see, that's the thing. He's got there's still a little bit more to learn. Like he was starting to punch himself out a little bit too early. It's like, again, he's throwing a bunch of headshots. Guy's got a high guard at peppering some body shots in there. It wasn't until after, I can't remember what round it was, but Reynoso said something to him, like, work the body a little more. Mm-hmm. Once he started doing that, then things started to open up a little more. He was landing a lot more clean shots. And then eventually worked his way to what was really a beautiful body shot. Beautiful, beautiful little feint, beautiful little setup. It was great. So yeah, I mean, it was overall, it was a good performance by Garcia. But
it showed his flaws. He's got some flaws. Like he's got a very bad defensive flaw. Like I saw it right from the beginning. He'd throw the punch and his defense is this. Yeah. Like he would just stick his hands out and like, instead of actually to get away, and he wasn't doing anything else. He was just sticking his hands out and hoping that he created distance enough with his arms that he didn't get hit.
And part of he's been able to get away with that. I forget who said it. Actually, I think it might've been Teddy Atlas said he's used to fighting shorter fighters that have to get close to him so he could land all those counter shots that he wants. And so he's used to doing that, like having the distance, being able to stick his hands out and being far enough away from danger. He's got to work on this shit. Cause I mean, just being, brutally honest at this point, Tank will fucking kill that guy.
He really will.
Tank will kill Garcia. I mean, if that was a Tank fight, like if he got caught with that shot from Tank, today he'd still be recovering in the hospital.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's like he's not going in there with Tank and taking that shot. You know what I mean? Tank's got like all world power. So he's got to fix that real quick. And I believe, look at Reynoso. I have faith. Like I said, I have faith in them. I have faith to work on it. But he should probably fight Devin Haney first. And then maybe he'll be ready for Tank because he's not ready for him right now.
Yeah.
But Tank said on Twitter, he said that the fight was already made. So
I mean, I'm sure.
I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I'm sure they've been waiting for that fight. I'm sure that. I mean, from Davis's corner, he's probably fucking like chomping at the bit to get to him because like there's.
They're like, I'm going to make so much money for no work. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, like
and again, it's actually better for all of us because you got this crowded 135 division, which by the way. I've seen it all since the fight. Like Garcia's name, his picture is up there with Loma and Tio and Tank and Haney, but there's no Shakur Stevenson. I know he's fighting at 130 now, but you gotta believe he's gonna be at 135 at some point. And he may be better than all of them aside from Loma.
Yeah.
I mean, he gets in there with Tank. We take fucking his picture out of that shit real quick. Yeah. So I mean, it works out for us.
Yeah,
we get to see an exciting fight. And have less to argue about.
Yeah. And I think that and from what I understand, I thought this was what I understood. Now he's like the mandatory to Devin Haney.
Mm-hmm.
But they're saying that either is he just going to give up the belt then? And he's going to try to go for Davis? Or is he just going to like.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because Garcia doesn't have like a real belt. He's got
and that's the other thing I was confused about because they said he doesn't have a belt yet. And then they were like, now he's a world title holder. And then they were saying he's like the mandatory to Devin Haney. But then like, I didn't know Luke Campbell had anything and I don't know what they were fighting for. And like,
yeah, he's got a belt. Like, I forget what belt he has. It's like IBF or some shit like that. So he doesn't, so WBC, WBO or no, IBF, I think. I can't remember. It's WBC, WBO, and then the other major one, and then the rest of them are like, not recognized as like the belts, the world titles. You know what I mean? So he's got one of the ones that's not recognized as a world title, a real world title. Right, so he's the mandatory to Haney, who Haney has one of the official world title belts.
Okay.
And I think Tank has the other two at 135. So yeah, he's the mandatory to him, but yeah, I mean, he doesn't. I mean, if he doesn't want to go for that belt, he can go fight Tank, and then his bullshit title. It's like I don't think he cares about it anyway.
Yeah,
it's not real.
I think it was just more of something, but like, I hope. I mean, really. I guess you're right. Like, it would be nice to kind of get that out of the way, but like, I do kind of hope that Garcia realizes he should get something else beforehand. Because he was talking a big game. He was saying he wants to go to Davis, then Lopez, and he wants to fight Haney last because Haney's his friend. But whatever. I mean, that none of those fights look good for him. And I think if he fights all three of them, he might he has obviously his best chance against Haney, but like, I don't think he beats Lopez or Davis. I don't even know if he wins rounds against them again, if it lasts very long, because you still, and again, like you saw his chin when he didn't get caught that hard. On top of that, you haven't seen him take a brutal like beating like to the body because Davis, he knows how to work the body. He knows how to change levels a little bit better than it looked like Luke Campbell was, and like Luke Campbell was doing well, but like I think Davis is a little bit obviously of an elite level boxer, and so is Lopez, and these guys are gonna punish Garcia for having.
Luke Campbell is very vanilla, and now good. He's experienced. He's crafty. He's a tough guy, but he's very vanilla in his style. It was the same problem with Callum Smith. Again, these European fighters, they're very straightforward. They're very easy to figure out. They're very easy to time, right? Luke Campbell is that guy. It was a tough opponent. Good for Ryan Garcia for getting through him. It shows he has some heart and that he's ready for a higher level than he was at. But there's like Luke Campbell, and then like you said, there's like Tio and Tank, and those are the level.
Yeah. So, it was a good fight. Like I said, I think we've said that like Ryan Garcia earned his stuff, but I think he's definitely got some work and he's got some stuff that he needs to clean up. And I think he will. And I like we both, what's up?
Okay. So before we go on, because I wanted to check to make sure I'm right. I forget. So the actual recognized lightweight titles, um, the WBO, IBF, WBA belong to Tio. Those are the ones that he won from Loma. Devin Haney is a WBC, which that's where because I forgot Tank won. He fought that fight with Santa Cruz at 130. So that was a junior lightweight belt that he has. And it says Gervonta Davis is the WBA regular lightweight champion. I don't even know what the fuck that means. And it says Ryan Garcia is the WBC interim champion, which is why that made him the mandatory to Devin Haney. The WBC.
Yeah, they have to. So one of the flaws, they have too many belts. But anyways.
Yeah. So what? But again, there's only the four that really matter. Right? I mean.
Yep. Yeah. So I think what's going to come next is interesting. Whether this fight with Davis happens for Garcia, I think that would put a damper on his career very quickly because it hasn't really even started yet. And I also think it's whatever. If he wants it, give it to him. But like I don't think this would be smart in his career. Whatever comes next, I'm interested in watching. I think he's a good fighter, and he definitely impressed me because I haven't seen him fight yet, and I've seen a lot of talk and like. He does a lot of flash. He has a lot of the speed work that he does on the bags and shit. And he's just like hitting that reflex bag. But, that
does those fucking stupid shoe shiner videos that like no one's impressed with this shit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So like, he gets all his praise because of that. But like at the same time, it's like, you got to go do it in the ring. But he TKO'd him. He hit him and he's definitely got the skill. It's just whether he can clean up these little flaws, which, like you said, I think we both have faith in Reynosa, and I think he's going to clean it up because he's probably one of the best there is. Other little thing, I'm not sure if this is true, but I'm sure everyone's seen it. Conor versus Poirier, maybe for the lightweight belt. Apparently, there's some stuff floating around Twitter talking about this might be for the lightweight belt because Dana and Khabib have been talking about whether he's coming back, and they're trying to figure out the belt situation. So I think whatever happens here, this fight may not directly be for the belt right away, but the winner of this will be for the belt within the next, like at some point in this year. Other UFC stuff that's like been announced, Izzy versus Blachowicz is going to be March 6th. So I'm pretty excited for that. So that's going to be like a champ type thing that could happen if Izzy wins, which will set up John Jones versus Izzy. And then what else was there? Michael Chandler versus Dan Hooker is going to be on the undercard of Conor versus Poirier. Chandler's from Bellator coming over to UFC for the first time. I don't think he's going to win, but I'll get into that later, which is going to suck because they just invested a ton of money into trying to get this guy over to the UFC.
Also, real quick, Chandler thinks that Caleb Plant is going to beat Canelo.
Oh, geez. All right. Well, I guess. I don't know. They're both Nashville guys. That's probably why.
Yeah. That's exactly why. He's like, Tennessee's in the host.
Yeah. So he's out of his mind. But anyways, so that's on the undercard there. And then we have a couple good fights coming up. Usman versus Burns, which was supposed to happen in December, is going to be also in March. I think it's going to be early March or February. February. So that'll be another title shot belt. So there's going to be a lot of good fights early in the year for UFC. That's going to set up a shit ton for the end of the year. And I think UFC is going to have a nice spike towards the end of this year because they're going to have some stuff where if these fights go according to plan, if Conor wins, Izzy wins, there could be a lot of John Jones goes in and wins or whatever happens with Stipe and Ngannou. I think that John Jones is going to be set up for Izzy. Conor could be set up for Khabib again, or it could be a Khabib versus GSP type thing because I don't think he's coming back unless it's one of those two. And then we have Usman versus Burns, which Conor could also be going there. And then it could also set up, a couple other rematches and fights from here. But I think this year is going to be really good for both boxing and UFC because UFC is setting up stuff really nice. And I think that there's a lot of good upcoming boxing matches that are going to happen. But now to the main meat and potatoes of today's episode. Jake and I both designed our dream fighter. He designed a boxer. I designed a UFC fighter or mixed martial artist, you could call it, picking our specific body parts. So like, or parts of a fighter. So fight IQ, chin, body, hands. For me, I picked grappling and then kicks as in legs. So Jake's was a little bit different because obviously boxing is doesn't have those different modalities or disciplines within the game. So he picked a little bit different. But I was cool. This is a cool idea that we came up with. To kind of it's cool to think about. And for me, I actually had real fun thinking about this because I had a couple back and forths between myself with like a couple of the areas, and like I was thinking about who I've seen and who I've always liked watching, and who has like certain aspects that I love and aspects that I hate, and like boxing as well. I thought about too, but like in terms of, I just kept it to UFC because that's what we decided on. But it's cool and it's fun to do this type of stuff because you always think about the different, because you see the all the fighters that have like those cool qualities, and like you just wonder what it would look like on like a certain person. Do you want to start? You want me to start?
I'll start.
All right, cool. So Jake did boxing. I'm gonna let him start, and we'll go from there.
All right. So my attributes were IQ, chin, hand speed, power, footwork, and heart. That basically covers everything.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna start. I'm not gonna go in the order that I just said them. I'm gonna start with the ones I had trouble.
Okay.
Picking one guy. So heart. I wanted to say Jake LaMotta. But Jake LaMotta has had like certain, like back then that like the mob was involved with boxing and stuff, and like it affected the way that he fought.
Yeah.
But when he was in fights, like the dude just never stopped, no matter what. And the other guy was Ali. Like Muhammad Ali, in so many fights, especially later in his career, looked like he was gonna fucking be done, and he found a way to win fights. So overall, I went with Ali. I went with Ali because part of the reason because I picked Jake LaMotta for chin. I think Jake LaMotta's got the greatest chin that anyone has ever seen.
Yeah.
If you have ever seen Raging Bull, they did the scene where Ray Robinson is just pounding LaMotta against the ropes, and they just refused to go down. Like blood was spraying everywhere. It happened not as dramatically as that, but so
movies.
Heart, Ali, chin, LaMotta. Hand speed. I had some trouble with this. Okay, it came down to between Sugar Ray Robinson and Roy Jones. Now, I think it's too easy to go with Roy Jones because he's probably the most athletic dude that's ever stepped foot in a boxing ring.
Yeah. Do you consider Floyd fast or quick? Like
he's fast. He's got quick hand speeds, but I mean it's again he was always a smaller dude, so it's real easy. Like everyone's fast when you're that light. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Because Jones was big. He was a big dude.
Yeah. Jones fought all the way up to heavyweight, but I mean I'm talking about Roy Jones at middleweight, right? So 160 pounds, and same thing with Ray Robinson. Sugar Ray fought at 160 pounds. I went with Ray Robinson because if you watch any old tape, I don't know if there's any metric, like if there's any way that anyone would ever be able to actually measure the speed of their shots.
I'm sure there is. Yeah.
Maybe we would find out that Roy Jones is actually faster than him. But if you watch old tape of Ray Robinson just like beating the shit out of these white dudes in the 40s, like his hands look so fast, dude. So I had to go with Sugar Ray. I had to go with the original Sugar Ray. IQ, real easy. I went with Floyd. He's I think easily the smartest fighter ever. And actually, I think that Canelo might be the second smartest fighter that I've ever seen.
Yeah, and I look at IQ as like adaptability as well. But like, Floyd's never. I mean, he's had a couple times when he's had to, but like he's just always knows better than the other person. Like it's just.
Well, I mean, when he was younger, he relied on his athletic ability. I mean, he was just, quicker than people. His head movement was quicker than people. He was able to get to spots quicker than everyone else. And later in his career, he relied more on his defense and his intelligence to win fights. And he's done it better than anyone. So the two things we got left are power and footwork. And I gave them both to the same guy, Tyson. Mike Tyson, you know, a lot of guys would say like some of the old heavyweights like George Foreman and Ernie Shavers were the hardest punchers ever. Some people like it would put Deontay Wilder up there, but for me, those guys were like, it was always the same thing. Ernie Shavers, it was like, yeah, the dude throws a hook on either hand, it's hard. Same thing with George Foreman, hook on either hand, it's hard. Tyson was knocking people out with everything.
Yeah.
And it was harder for him because he was much smaller than other heavyweights.
Yeah, that's got to be the only one because he was there. I don't think there's anybody else comparable.
Yeah, and then the footwork, obviously, because of his size as a heavyweight, he had to do a lot more work to get in position to land those power shots. And again, you go look at Tyson from 85 to 88. You can't come back and tell me if you see a tape of anyone with better footwork than that.
Yeah.
So just to recap: IQ, Floyd; chin, Jake LaMotta; hand speed, Ray Robinson; power, Tyson; footwork, Tyson; and heart, Muhammad Ali.
Yeah, that'd be a hell of a fighter. That'd be one hell of a fighter. For me, I did UFC, so it was a little bit different from boxing. There's a couple different things. So essentially, where Jake chose, it was hand speed, right? And then you chose footwork. I chose grappling, and then or heart, I guess you could put there. I chose grappling and legs. So fight IQ, and I'm going to say this one first because I don't want it to get when I wrote down initial Nate Diaz, I wrote down head, and I wrote down don't get confused with IQ because Nate Diaz is not a smart fighter by any means. He's just, but the fight IQ, I went with John Jones because I think whenever you see John Jones in the cage so far that he's fought, he's dominated every fight. He's basically put his fight in the direction that he wants it to go. He hasn't really been, besides Dominic Reyes, he hasn't really been pressured to like give up his style, and he's always in his style. He's always at his ranges. The fight always goes how he wants it to go, essentially. That's why I'm interested to see what happens with, the future of him and Izzy, but easily fight IQ. He's when he has been pressured, he's pulled up and he's won. He's got all the moves. And I like John Jones for the simple fact that like he's been unorthodox and like he has like these weird moves that he just pulls out when he needs to. Chin, I don't know if there's someone else other than Nate Diaz who's taken as many punches as I've seen and still just marched forward and lived to tell the tale. But I've seen him fight Connor, Jorge. I've seen him get shot after shot after shot in the head, and he just keeps walking and moving forward. So again, IQ, John Jones; chin, Nate Diaz; body, I had a little bit of issue with, and that was like one that I struggled with because there's a couple people I went with. Connor is one of them. Anderson Silva was another. And then I even thought of someone like, just for the simple fact that if I was building like an actual dream fighter, I'd want them to look like Brock Lesnar, but just because he was massive. But I chose Anderson Silva because he had a lot of control, and he was someone who wasn't the biggest guy, wasn't the smallest dude. He wasn't, he was gifted in a lot of ways, but a lot of it was from his just like composure and just like his movement overall. And he had a lot of good movement, good striking, good kicking, and he was just a legend in his time. And I think that he deserves a spot on a Ultimate Fighter like developing thing. Hands, and hands, I don't think it's a question for me. I think Connor's got the best hands. I think he's the best striker in the UFC right now. I think he's one of the best probably ever. I don't know if there's a lot that are better than him overall.
What about GSP?
Oh, GSP, yeah. But I mean, I think Connor's better than GSP.
I would agree. But that dude could throw, man.
Yeah, no, and I think he's good. I think he's got a lot of stuff. I just think there's a big gap between Connor and everybody else, at least in the UFC. Unless there's, Izzy's coming up, and Izzy is a dude that like I would almost put like equal with Connor because I've seen him now like fight a bunch of times, and every time he fights, he doesn't go on the ground. And like he's only been on the ground like once or twice, and the times he has been, he's gotten up and knocked or at least TKO'd or won the fight. The only thing I don't like about Izzy is he gets sloppy sometimes with his punches, whereas Connor doesn't. Connor's very much uh like he moves well, and like Connor moves his head to
He's
like
very
probably the
precise.
yeah. Izzy's precise, but he gets into he has like these bad habits where he like leans and he throws punches like as he's falling, or like he doesn't move like laterally well. He just kind of like moves forward and then uses his length well. But he punches like he's easily like he's up there with Connor. They're like here.
I would say one thing about Connor though. One problem he does have, and he's had like, you know, every time I've seen him, is that he throws shots that don't need to be thrown with full power,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is part of the reason why gas is out so quickly.
And he throws through his punches. He doesn't come back. He doesn't snap his punches. He throws through.
Yeah, he throws like he's pitching a fastball.
Yeah. And that's why he's probably knocked some people out that he has. But like,
yeah,
I mean, you even like in his fight against Aldo, you saw that like the smaller hook he gave Aldo was like it's compact. It was nice. He probably, if he did more of that, he would have had a lot more fights. But so I chose Connor for that. And then maybe down the line, I'd switch that and put Izzy there and Connor in the body. But for now, Connor's got the hands. Grappling, I don't think there's a conversation to be had here. Khabib is easily the best grappler.
Not Dylan Dennis?
No, not Dylan. If I was choosing like straight up jiu-jitsu, I'd actually probably choose Gordon Ryan, like outside of UFC. Because Gordon Ryan, I don't know if you know who that is, but he's like the number one no gi jiu-jitsu guy in the world. He's badass. Like he's beat everybody he's faced essentially. But again, he's not in the UFC. So Khabib, easily number one. He's basically submitted the last 4 fighters he's had, which have been Dustin Poirier, Conor McGregor, Justin Gaethje, and I forgot his fight before that. But I think he submitted all 4 of those guys, and they're essentially the top fighters in the division. Then legs, I chose Izzy because he's got some of the best kicks I've seen. And I think he deserves a spot on a striking list because if he's not first in hands, then he's at least first in like kicks. Like his kicks are crazy, and like even against Costa when I saw him fight him, it was like he just knew where to place him. He had like I don't know if you know what a question mark kick is, but like a question mark kick is like where you fake to like the stomach and then you come high and go low. Like he had a couple of those, and like he just knows what he's doing. He's just obviously an elite level kickboxer because that's what he was before he was a UFC fighter. But he's definitely easily the best on his legs and his kicks. And then if I had to choose heart, I'd probably go with Ferguson just because I've seen that dude get mauled, but I don't know. I would have to think about
Diaz?
That. I would say Nate Diaz too. He would definitely be on. I didn't really think about Hart because I didn't have that one on my list, but probably I don't know. It would be. I love Nate Diaz. If he was like an
Nate Diaz, I think part of having a good chin is having the heart to like because some of them are gonna hurt. Like some of them will get rocked.
Yeah,
and you could say, oh, he's had a great chin. But part of that is knowing, like, oh shit, I just got rocked. And
the thing with Nate Diaz is I've gone back and forth on is like if he actually has heart or if he just has literally nothing upstairs.
Stupid,
like he's just
Dude, in fighting, that's kind of the same thing, man. You know what I mean? It's kind of the same thing.
No, it is, and like I love watching it. But so recap: IQ, John Jones; chin, Nate Diaz; body, Anderson Silva; hands, Connor, and hands meaning like speed, accuracy, precision, all that stuff. Grappling, Khabib, and then the legs, Izzy. So that I think that would be a very, very good fighter. I was actually playing around with the idea of like taking these pieces and like putting them together in some way, but I didn't know if I would be able to have the time to do it after. I'll have to see. Maybe I can put together the picture and we can post it. But yeah, and I think that with these guys, both these that we put together, there's definitely a lot to be debated in some ways, because I think that there's a lot of high IQ fighters. There's probably, and like Connor's never actually been knocked out. John Jones has never been knocked out, but Connor's taken some shots. Izzy,
Connor's got a really good chin too. Yeah.
And that's one of the things when I see some of these dudes who get rocked, I'm like, I don't know how they don't go. And then you see a dude like Ryan Garcia who just gets like clipped and he just drops.
And it's weird too because Ryan Garcia is Mexican, and like
Yeah.
Mexican and Irish dudes are known for having like the chins, like the
Yeah.
solid chins. You know what I mean? It's crazy that he just fucking took a tap like that.
He's a pretty boy. That's why, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, and like I said, I think this was a cool thing because it's always interesting because I've seen these before in terms of like football, but or like basketball. I've seen like the basketball ones where they choose, but they're always like, there's just like other nonsense involved. This is just straight to the point. It's the best versions of each fighter, putting them together, trying to make someone who could beat anybody and would never lose. But yeah, I don't know if there's anything else to go over. Is there any other fight news or anything that you have?
No, I'm not sure if I mentioned it before, but right after the Artur Beterbiev fight was announced for January 30th.
Mhm. Oh, you did. I think you said something about that.
Yeah, it got delayed because one of them tested positive for COVID. So that's one of the big fights we're gonna have this month that we're not gonna have.
Okay. All right, cool. And then UFC, like I said, we got next weekend, we have Calvin Kattar versus Max Holloway. And that's actually, they're going to have that on ABC, I guess. It's going to start at 3:00 Eastern. So it'll be 12:00 West Coast time. I don't know if it's going to be free. I'm not actually sure 100%, but that fight's going to be on ABC, that whole card. And then that's supposed to start off like fight week. So next week's going to be pretty interesting because there's supposed to be fight week, which is Saturday is Calvin Holloway. Wednesday was supposed to be Khamzat Chimaev and Leon Edwards, but apparently he tested positive for COVID. So I don't know if they're replacing that fight, which I'm annoyed with because I kind of wanted to see that. But they'll hopefully replace that with somebody for Leon Edwards, and then finishing off with Conor Poirier to start off like this season and get these dominoes falling. So there's going to be a lot to talk about next weekend. And then boxing wise, me and Jake were saying there's a lot of Japanese fights. Might have to start tuning into that stuff. So
yeah, I'm gonna start checking them out. So because they have events like every week, and a lot of fighters fighting. So I'm gonna have to start checking them out, see if any of these guys can actually fight.
Have to dive into it. But other than that, I think that's it for this week. It's a little bit of a shorter episode. If you guys have any suggestions or thoughts on who your fighter would be, definitely love to hear it because it's it's a hard thing to do, but it's fun. So put together your fighter, let us know. Or if you have any suggestions for our fighters, definitely let us know. And we'll go from there. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We will see you guys next week. Peace.